what exactly is negotiation? So essentially, negotiation is something that we do all the time. So we are doing this in our relationships, we are doing outside of our houses, with the vegetable vendors, we are doing it with everybody that we meet on some level. So, just to give it a formal definition as such, it means that two or more parties exchange goods or services with an attempt to forming a rate for the same. So, rate means an exchange rate. Okay, this is negotiation is very popular when it comes to job scenario also, right? And we will look at what are the different types of negotiations, and then we will understand through other scenes as well how much negotiation is important and what are the strategies we can adopt. So let's begin to understand that it's a type of a bargaining strategy, right? There are times when we want a desired outcome, and that can happen through certain strategies. And there are two very important strategies when it comes to negotiating. These two strategies are called distributive bargaining and integrative bargaining. These are very important, right? Now, what exactly do these mean, right? So let's go ahead and understand distributive. Okay, so distributive bargaining is a I win, you lose strategy, right? So I'll give you an example here. So an example could be you going to buy a car, and you can have a bargaining strategy with the salesman of the car, right? Now the salesman of the car would try not to give you any discount, and he would probably give you a little bit of discount, because the more you bargain with the salesman, it is his loss and your win in that scenario. Basically, it is a zero sum game. Okay, now when I say a zero sum game, it means that one party is winning in this bargaining and the other party is losing at the expense of the other. That means if the car is for 7 lakh and you ask for some deduction of, let's say, discount of 50,000 or something, um, let's say he gives you that 50,000, but that's a loss for him and a win for you. Anything above and below that is happening is also a win and loss. It's not a win-win scenario here. This strategy is called a distributive bargaining. We adopt this strategy when we go out for shopping as well, right? It's a win and a lose strategy. Every time you are able to get that bargain or get that discount, you feel that, okay, I've won, I feel satisfied. Yet the person who is giving you that discount or giving you that, um, lowering his price, he's not very happy to do so. So there are 2 points here which you can remember. One is called the target point, which means what he or she would like to achieve, which is what you think you can pay. Resistance point, point below which the negotiations would break off. Now this we see a lot of times when you are buying something, right? When you're negotiating for something, and you tend to say things like, okay, this cannot happen because below a point you will not go. So even for shopkeepers, they say, okay, this is not even covering my cost, I will not go below this point, right? You must have seen that happen a lot of times. This is what a distributive bargaining means. Please remember, this is a zero sum game. One party wins and the other party loses. Before moving on, I will show you one movie scene. This is from a movie called Dawn, and this is the older version of Dawn, which is the 1970s movie. It featured Amitabh Bachchan, and there is this one scene, and we'll see some kind of negotiation. So let's go ahead and watch this scene.
देखो डॉन की तस्वीर में डॉन है, लेकिन ये तो मैं हूं। ये डॉन है। तो क्या आप चाहते हैं कि मैं इसकी जगह हाँ, और इस तरह तुम हमारी बहुत बड़ी मदद कर सकते हो। नहीं नहीं डीएसपी साहब, मुझे तो आप माफ कर दीजिए। अभी अभी आप कह रहे थे कि उनके आदमी ने आपके 3 इन्फॉर्मर मार दिया है। अजी सूरज शकल मिलने से क्या होता है, वो लोग तो 2 मिनट में पहचान जाएंगे कि देखिए, अगर इधर मैं समझाता हूँ। कहाँ डॉन जो जरा जरा सी बात पे गोली चला देते थे, और कहाँ मैं, मुझे तो गोलियां तक खेलना नहीं आता। मैं तुम्हें सब सिखा दूंगा। अजी सीखने से क्या होता है, उनके आदमियों को तो पता चल ही जाएगा ना। मुझे किसी का भी पता नहीं चलेगा। देखो ये राज के डॉन मर चुका है, अब मेरे सिवा सिर्फ तुम जानते हो, और ये राज के तुम डॉन नहीं हो, कोई और हो, तुम्हारे सिवा अब सिर्फ मैं जानूंगा। डॉन के साथियों की तरह पुलिस भी तुम्हें डॉन नहीं समझेगी। अब कहीं मुझे पुलिस वालों ने डॉन समझ के पकड़ लिया था, मैं तो गया ना 12 के भाग। उसके लिए मैं हूं ना। तुम्हारी मदद से पुलिस जब उन लोगों को पकड़ लेगी तो मैं कह दूंगा कि तुम डॉन नहीं हो, तुम मेरे आदमी इन्फॉर्मर हो। वो सब तो ठीक है डीएसपी साहब, लेकिन मुझे तो आप माफ ही कर दीजिए। तो बड़ा खतरनाक काम मालूम पड़ता है भाई। कैसे आदमी हो तुम, जरा से खतरे से इतना डरते हो? पहले नहीं डरता था डीएसपी साहब, पहले की बात और है। पहले मैं अकेला था, तब आपने कहा होता तो मैं झट से तैयार हो जाता है कि जीना मरना क्या, चलो ये काम भी करके देखते हैं। हाँ, लेकिन क्या है डीएसपी साहब, अब मैं अकेला नहीं रहा। क्या ये देखिए, अब मेरे पास दीपू है, मुन्नी है। आपके कहने पर कि बेटा कुएं में कूद जा, मैं तो कूद जाऊं। लेकिन कहीं उन लोगों ने पहचान दिया कि मैं डॉन नहीं कोई और हूं, तो वो तो मेरी चिक्का पोटी करके भेज देंगे। फिर इन बच्चों का क्या होगा? ये बेचारे तो फिर से फुटपाथ तक पहुंच जाएंगे। लगता है थोड़े ही दिनों में इन बच्चों से बहुत प्यार हो गया तुम्हें। हाँ साहब, वो तो है, इनका मेरे सिवा और कौन है। और फिर ये लोग मुझे कितना प्यार करते हैं। इनके मासूम प्यार के बदले में तुम इन्हें क्या दे रहे हो? सड़कों पे नाचने गाने की तालीम, आवारागर्दी की जिंदगी। तुम चाहो तो ये बच्चे स्कूल जा सकते हैं, पढ़ लिख के डॉक्टर इंजीनियर बन सकते हैं, लेकिन कैसे? मैं इन्हें सब कुछ दूंगा जो इन्हें चाहिए। मैं इन्हें हॉस्टल में दाखिल करा दूंगा, किसी अच्छे स्कूल में पढ़ाऊंगा मैं इन्हें। अगर मैं आपका ये काम कर दूं, देखो डॉन या डॉन के साथियों से मेरी कोई जाति दुश्मनी नहीं है, लेकिन इन लोगों के जुर्म समाज के जिस्म पे ऐसे ही नासूर हैं जैसे इन बच्चों की गरीबी। तुम इन लोगों के जुर्म मिटाने में मेरी मदद करो, मैं इनकी बदनसीबी मिटाने में तुम्हारी मदद करूंगा। बोलो, मंजूर है? ठीक।
Right. So I hope you were able to watch that scene clearly. I did had subtitles there. So let's understand what was happening here in this scene. So now this guy who is a look-alike of a don or a gangster in the movie, and the inspector who he is having a conversation with, he wants Amitabh Bachchan, who's the look-alike Amitabh Bachchan, to play the role of Don. Okay, and although this guy thinks that it's a very very dangerous job, the inspector is negotiating with him, and he's able to come up with a solution, and finally he does the job, right? So here what happens, this is another strategy for bargaining. Okay, so Rajesh says he used emotional play. So I wouldn't call it an emotional play, but rather a strategy of understanding the need of Amitabh Bachchan in this particular scene. What was the need of Amitabh Bachchan? His need at that time was that his children should be taken care of so that I can take, so that he can do that job, right? And the inspector not only offers to help him just for this time period, but he says that he will take care of their hostel schooling fees for entire lifetime, right? That is the kind of strategy he offers. Now this strategy is called integrative bargaining strategy. Now this is not like an emotional thing or anything, but understanding the need of your opponent. I will not call an opponent, but understanding the need of the other party. So when you understand the need of yours and the other party, that is when you are able to win this game of negotiation. So this is a I win you win strategy, right? Understanding the need of both parties, and it is specifically used in intra organizational behavior. Now it means that the people in the organization, if they take on different kinds of suppliers for their business, the supplier would understand the need of the business, and the business would understand the need of the supplier. If it is a long term, if it is on a long term basis, generally many a times it can be a zero sum game in organizations. But when you have to form a long term contract which would go on for, let's say, another 5 to 10 years, that is the time you have to have an integrative bargaining strategy, right? Which means you want to go for a long time and you understand the needs, your client, your other party's needs, and that party understands your needs, right? I hope that is clear. Okay. All right. So, understanding another, we will understand the process of negotiating, how one does go about this process, or the strategy makes the strategy complete. We will watch one more scene so that we understand how the strategy actually takes place. Okay. And from there we will go on. So this is a scene from a movie called Jobs, and we are looking at Steve Jobs here. Ashton Kutcher is playing the role of Steve Jobs, and how he is trying to negotiate with a supplier. So let's understand this, and we will see how we can do these negotiations in our lives as well. Okay.
So what kind of investment are we talking about? Jesus, me. I said I was interested, not mine. I know. But you're also not the only interested party. Oh, really? I'm not. No, you're not. That's interesting, because it sure seemed that way the other night at home group. You think that's the first stop that we made? We've been all over the valley. Oh, good. And you already have a retailer. I got offers. With Paul. My middle name's Paul. My dad's name's Paul. Paul's. I think we're kindred spirits. Both businessmen that operate from our gut. My gut tells me to give you this opportunity. I'm taking $400 per machine for 50 units, paid at the time of delivery. 400 for 100 units, third up front. We're not negotiating this now.
Right. Okay, so I will break this scene down for you. So Steve Jobs need money to build more computers. That is his objective. And the guy you see on the screen, his name is Paul. He's a computer store owner, and he's trying to get this contract with this person called Paul. And the type of strategy he adopts is, and I'll tell you what he says. But let's understand the process of negotiating itself. So it starts with something called preparation and planning, right? Now, what is preparation and planning? Preparation and planning means knowing the other party, and knowing something called BATNA. BATNA is a best alternate to your negotiated agreement, which means that you need to have an alternative to the negotiated part, which which can also let's take an example of this scene itself. So in this particular scene, what was happening was that even though Steve Jobs, he has no offer on the table, okay, he has a very weak position at this point of time. But to negotiate with Paul, he starts by saying that he has many offers, and he Paul here thinks that he's the only interested party, while this is not true at all. So these sentences, when he says that, I have many offers, and the way he frames it, so he says that Steve Jobs says that I am considering you, and I want to give this opportunity to you, so that you can supply us these computers, right? So that I can make computers and then deliver it. So that framing itself is where he wins the agreement. So he says that, I believe we both are kindred spirits, and I want to give you an opportunity. So kindred spirit means that we both think alike, right? We both are businessmen, and we want to grow our businesses, so let's do this, and I'm giving you this opportunity. That is how he talks to win this kind of negotiation. Okay, so here let's understand what happened itself in the scene. So the second part of the negotiation process is ground rules. What needs to be delivered and how much. So if you saw in the scene carefully, he had said that, I want $400 for 50 units. Paul says this, $400 for 50 units. And then he gives a counter negotiating offer, and we look at that. So ground rule means what how many computers need to be delivered and for how much cost. Okay, so that is very important to set those ground rules. Now, when there is clarification and justification, it means that the initial position have been exchanged, and both the parties will exchange and justify their original demands. So, the counter agreement that Steve Jobs puts there is that he says $400 for 100 units with one third upfront payment, right? So he's asking for payment upfront, and he's saying, I will give $400. I will accept $400 for 100 units. Units here is computers that he will make, right? So that is how he starts to bargain. This essentially comes in the bargaining and the problem solving aspect, right? So it is very, very crucial, like I said, to know your BATNA and to know the BATNA of the shopkeeper or the supplier. So in this case, BATNA means that what advantage or what is the position of uh, of of the supplier or the other party, right? Again, understanding their need. So when you understand their position and what they are willing to offer you, that is the time you can structure your negotiated offer. Okay, even in this case that we just saw, Steve Jobs understand his position right now, but to convert it, but to make his position stronger, he says that I have got many offers, and I can deliver this in this much time. So that is why this guy, first, he's not interested in this person, but later he says, okay, he takes a second and he says 400 for 50 units. So Paul says 400 for 50 units. Then Steve on that puts a counter negotiated offer and says 400 for 100 units, right? By the end of it all, they sign an agreement. Okay, so where is that coming from? That finally is the closure and the implementation part of the negotiation process, right? In that part, um, in that part itself, many deals are closed. So labor management negotiations, buying a piece of real estate, and anything that is specific in terms of a formal contract, these all are essentially in the closure and the implementation phases. All the lease terms are filed and signed in this case, right? So guys, that was the content for today. I hope you've understood negotiations. I'll take questions now. Um, let's see this. So, JNS says, does negotiation need the ability to walk away from the table? So, generally, when the deal is a really is not contributing to you in any way, that might be the last resort for you to walk away from a negotiation agreement where you feel that it's not reaching your BATNA. Okay, it is nowhere even close to your BATNA. So at that time, you might decide to walk away without burning any bridges by just saying, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but this does not work for me at this hour, and I would have to walk away from this situation. Ideally, if it goes well, it won't be a part of it, but negotiation, when the deal is not good for you, you might have to walk away. Sometimes this happens that when you walk away, the other party does give a better offer after once you have walked away, right? Can you say more from an employee point of view, how to negotiate with employers for higher salary? Yes, absolutely. So this is one of the basics. A lot of people have questions regarding this, right? So as an employee, the first thing that you need to understand is that you need to really carve out what is it that you're asking, right? And know why you are asking. So know your why is super important, right? Which means that first, the if you're already working, then it's a different scenario. If you're going for a job interview and you're asking for a higher salary, then it's a different perspective, right? So let's assume you are already working because you've written employees point of view. So you can ask this after you have got your rating or appraisals for the year. You can walk in with whatever number. So please be very mindful with the number that you already have. Okay, it is very important that you pick a number which you think is the most suitable for you. Never say that X or Y person is getting it and I want it. That's never a valid point for you to say, but always support it with what you can do as an employee and what you have done as an employee. So that is very crucial. Okay, so know the points for which you are saying this. Support it within with a real life example, realistic example. Say how you have created your own brand in the company, and also tell them why you deserve this and why this is not valid what you have currently received. um, these points are very important when you are negotiating your salary with any with your employer at that given point of time. um, Besides that, when you are a new employee, there would be a different process. Like when you go as a fresher, that would be a different. Okay, so let me just check if somebody's asked that. So, okay. I have been rejected once when asking for more salary. My package was 60% lower than industry. Can you tell me how to negotiate more effectively? Yes, Tarun. So you need to first know your worth or value. So when I say that, that does not That first means, yes, know your worth and value innately, which you have. Second, what I mean is what you're working for. You already mentioned that you're getting 60% lower than industry average. So that means that you have done your research and you know that you're getting that much lower. So it is a worth point quoting. This point is worth quoting. But before that, why you should receive this? So whatever your amount is, whatever is the number is, you should make the person understand why you are eligible for this number, because of your skill sets, because of your experience, because how much you stand out, and what is it that you have done, and what are your goals and plans that you would be achieving it to do. So that is a kind of way that you have to first put your points. Second, the most crucial point here to remember is, think about, you have experience now, right? You have all the learnings. So you know what the other person can say to you. So he or she might say, first of all, no, and how they package it. So write that down. Why are they saying no? They can say yes. Or third point, they can try to manipulate you in some way. So they can say, okay, I'll give you this much, which is not some breadcrumbs, but you don't want that. So try to write that down, and then also have some points, counter points regarding that. That is very, very important. This would give you a way to answer all these questions. Another point that they would look at is some of your weaknesses. Okay, they will point that out. Don't take it personally, because that is their job to do. Okay, that because they want to not give you money, so they will try to play all those games. At that point of time, you have to have, and not like an counter thing that you would want to play, but you are skilled at what you're doing, you are effective at what you're doing, and you have to say that convincingly to them that I know my job and I have been doing this for so long, and what is it that you bring to the table, right? And how much, even if you're at the lowest level, at any given point of time, you are contributing towards the goals of the organization. So have that very clear. But how you are contributing is something that is first you need to know that, so that you can articulate it nicely in front of your bosses. Okay, so that you can effectively negotiate at that point of time. I hope that makes sense. So these are some of the tips that you can use. You can definitely, please know your BATNA. When I say BATNA, know what the other party is going to say. This is a strategy. If you know that, you are first mentally prepared for that. Second, you are not bothered by that immediately. Like, okay, a lot of times people have a lot of gaps in their employment, right? When you have a lot of gaps in your employment, companies or organizations or even consultants would play on that. They would say things like, we'll not be able to pay this kind of rate because you have some gap or something like that. So try to bridge that by saying that what you have done in that gap and how that contributes for you to become a better person in those gaps, and how your quality, effectiveness, and productivity has not been affected by that. If you are able to say these things out loud with confidence, and the person that you have become on this journey, you will be able to get that money that you want. Okay. Right. So, Tarun, if that company is paying you lower, then you might want to check with other companies. If if you really want that, if you want to just go with and stick with that company, then you might have to up your negotiation game here. Because if they're saying our budget is this much, take it or leave it, then that is something, after that it will become your choice of what you want to do. But I would recommend that you need to up your negotiation game, right? So have everything written down, make all the strategies right before going in for an interview, and you will get your desired amount that you put in there, right? If you have everything in place, you will get it, don't worry. So Rahil here says how to negotiate appraisals, how to make sure to pick the right percentage for the same. So Rahil, if I'm saying this correctly, okay. So Rahil, what you need to do is, first, appraisals are definitely mostly based on the ratings that you get, right? Um, this is a long process in terms of goal settings that you make in the beginning of the year, right? So if you have your goals written down, and by the end of the appraisal cycle you have achieved all your goals, and still you are not receiving the amount that you desired, or that amount that you had planned for. So let's say somewhere between 20% or 30%, if the economic conditions are right in the country. See, when we had COVID, a lot of companies were not giving out appraisals, and that was a little okay, because the economy itself wasn't working, companies were closing down, right? So specifically taking out a percentage might not work. But if you have done your work, if your goals have been achieved that you had targeted at the beginning of the year, if you've achieved all those, and not like in just 5 days before the appraisals, you would know that if you've worked like that. So uh, that is the time you are sure to receive a higher percentage of whatever the company generally offers. Now this depends on each company separately. Some big companies do give out 30% hikes as well, um, uh, when when they're doing well, also to a higher rater. So even in your company there would be a bracket, so you can do some research to find out. So let's assume there is a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 being the highest, 5 being the lowest. So the one rater generally would get in some particular bracket, right? So 25 to 30%. Now I am assuming this depends upon the company. So one rater would get this much. A two rater would get somewhere between 20 to 25% hike. A three rater would get an average hike of, let's say, 15%, somewhere around there. So and so on. So first you need to understand what is the rating system and what are the hike percentages associated with it. Um, then your strengths, your weaknesses, and how you deserve a better rating. And then if you think that there is something off with your ratings, then you go ahead with all the strategies, plans, percentages with you to your manager or whoever is your reporting, to tell them the job that you have done and what you are expecting in future, and things like that, so that make your case just like a lawyer would do. So a lawyer would investigate everything and would go with all the details in hand, right? Similar to that, you have to put in your case, because there is nobody else who would come and say, I like this person, please give him hike, right? This comes down to you as a person, so it really is your call. I hope that makes sense. Tarun says salary was fixed. I told them about how I was adding value to the company and my resume was great. It was just fixed from their end. Okay. Yeah, sometimes companies do have just the fixed component. They don't have the variable component attached with it. And that is something the company chooses to work like that. And probably there you might not get a variable pay program which includes bonuses and everything. So that's okay, because but appraisals generally, so that would just increase your CTC, right? Because they're not going in for bonus. Okay. Sometimes the companies are not flexible with the salary structure. They will promise good appraisals and other things, but always slack around that. Yes. So, um, yeah, that happens. Then there's no worries. I already got a job at a very good start with the package I was doing. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. That's great. So that's problem solved, right? Right there. Okay, wonderful. So, right. So I think we've answered questions. Yeah. Great job. Congratulations, Tarun. So, so you were able to make it right without really much, because when we face failure, that is the time you are able to get a very good opportunity after that, right? Okay, sure, sure, right. So appraisal trip, like I said, would be the same as what I mentioned to Rahil. You have to have your goals that you wanted to achieve, uh, your how you achieved them, what are the steps that you're going to take further to reach organizational goals, and these are your strengths. Don't quote your weaknesses, your strengths, and how you would utilize your strength to gain more business in the company, right? So these are some of the things that you really need to put forward to the management, so that you can as an employee get the amount that you want to receive. All right, guys. So that is it for today. If you have any questions, you can put them down right now. And I will give you a link so that you can go ahead and read it if you would like. Preetham says MNCs tend to be very strict with appraisals. Um, Strict, what do you mean by strict? How to counter them? Preetham, what do you mean by strict? Like you don't get them, or how is it? Because I have had a different experience. They won't give good appraisals. Okay. Um, Again, depends. Like I said, you have to do your research. They're mostly below 10%. Okay, so if they are below 10% for everybody, you maybe because of the economic conditions in the past, right now, because we were going through COVID, but of what I had witnessed was my entire team sadly. Okay, so okay, so could be because the team was not able to achieve the organizational goal itself, or whatever goal that they were looking to get out from you. So the best way forward for you as a team player or a team manager, for you would be to set goals for the next appraisal cycle. Sit with the team manager. If you yourself are the team manager, sit with your team, draft the goals, right? So that by half yearly you are able to gauge where you are, right? You are able to know what you have achieved with these goals. Okay, so this generally, Preetham, for this to play out, your managers are the ones who are taking credit away. Um, does not seem right in the first place, because if the manager grows, you grow as a team. So that is how generally it should progress, right? If your manager is looking nice in the eyes of his manager, or his reporting, that is when you look nice in the eyes of the manager himself. So if something like this is happening, this is not the correct way to go about it. So what you can do, or my advice would be to reach to your super boss. So your super boss would be the manager above your manager. Okay, keep him in loop with your goals. um, you have to do that kind of networking, because it is certainly, it seems important in your case, because this is what is happening. And if you can do that, keep him in the loop, so that he knows that the work that you and your team is putting in is consistent and is achieving goals. If you are not doing that, then again it might get lost somewhere. So you have to put this in that agenda of yours. Keeping everybody in the loop is very, very helpful. Otherwise, you might you might suffer at the time of appraisals. If this generally happens if this is a closed environment, or a small small group where somebody would want to take credit for somebody else's work. So that is definitely not useful, but you can take advantage by being smarter and reaching out to the manager's boss. All right, guys, I hope you've understood today's concept. Thank you, Tarun. I hope you liked it. If there are questions, like I said, you can go ahead and read the content that I have given to you right now. And if you have any questions, then you can put it here on the content itself. All right. Thank you so much. This will be a goodbye. Please take care and stay safe. Bye, everyone.